Hi everyone, and welcome to March's edition of Breck Buzz. I'm your host, Haley Littleton, Communications for the town of Breckenridge. Stay tuned because today we're going to be talking with Carol and Alexandria about the Breckenridge Social Equity Advisory Commission, and it's going to be an amazing conversation. Hi everyone, and welcome to Breck Buzz. Today we have the honor of having Council Member Carol Saade here with us, so thank you so much.
Yeah, glad to be here and glad to be chatting with you today, Haley.
This is your first Breck Buzz, right?
It is. Eric on the spot was like, you get March, Carol, so
he will do that sometimes. Well, welcome. It's so great to have you. Maybe fill everyone in about when you joined council and how.
So I was appointed to town council at the end of summer. Gary Gallagher stepped down because he was moving, and I threw my name in the hat because I love this community and wanted to be part of giving back. So it's been an interesting experience. I think my background has prepared me well, but there is a lot going on right now.
So how has the process of being on town council during a pandemic been?
You know what? It's been very interesting, challenging, and rewarding. First off, I feel so fortunate to live in this community during the pandemic. I mean, COVID really impacted everything across the globe and impacted every single person of varying severity in one way or another. And here locally, not only do we live in this beautiful environment where the outdoors could be an escape during lockdown and an outlet during social restrictions, but I've learned how town has such an incredible network of partner organizations, nonprofits, and individuals that really stepped up to help others during this time. These times have been challenging, and as a resort community, we've had our own unique challenges. It's crazy to think that we're at a year mark.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because, wow, it's been a year, or wow, it hasn't been 10 years, just in this black hole of COVID time.
Yeah.
But looking at the numbers as a whole, our community relatively has done well. But COVID impacted different individuals differently, different industries differently. At the beginning of the pandemic, our Latinx population was hit very hard by COVID. Looking at different industries, real estate is having a record-breaking year, while restaurants are down 30%.
Right.
So it's really impacting everyone differently. It's been wonderful to work along with town staff. You know, there's an ever-changing COVID environment, and I think staff has adapted beautifully. Haley, thank you, because there's been so much information. It's so important to get accurate and timely information out, and you really did that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, it's definitely been just a wild year, and it changes so quickly. So it can be hard to, stay up to date, but I think everybody's just worked really hard, and it has been awesome to see everyone come together. And, and now it's hard to believe that we're in 2021, but what are some of your council priorities or general council priorities going into this new year?
Yeah, 2021, we are still in COVID. So, of course, we know cases are going down, restrictions are going down, more people are getting vaccinated, but we still are in this. And I think it's really important to also look ahead to just the lasting impacts that COVID will have. One thing that comes to mind is community composition. We've had a lot of second homeowners come here, a lot of remote workers come here, and we want to make sure they're welcome, feel included, but at the same time that they're invested and they want to give back. And almost more importantly is our existing community, making sure that they are getting through COVID. Outside of COVID, I think my story kind of is similar to a lot of others in this community, where I came here for one winter and never left.
Yes.
So one of my priorities is making sure that this is still possible. And not just from that financial aspect of not being priced out of the community, but that people feel included, they want to live here, and they have the resources to thrive. And all this is as we balance this ongoing massive growth we've had over the last 10 plus years. And with all this, also COVID has given an opportunity to reset on some long-term strategic plans. We are diving into event philosophy, into open space and trail management. At our last meeting, Nicole with housing, she mentioned how we're going to re-dive into long-term housing strategy, which housing has always been the top issue, if not one of the top issues. So with all this, I don't want to lose sight of additional goals like sustainability efforts, and of course the laying the foundation for the equity efforts we'll dive into shortly.
Yes, definitely. And I think one of the best things about the town of Breckenridge and why I love there is that we are never twiddling our thumbs. We are always working on the next thing. We've got projects, we're always looking ahead. And one of the big things is what you just mentioned, which is social equity that's come up. And, we've talked about it a lot, but maybe on a more foundational level, kind of help people understand what that means, what social equity means.
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think all of us in this last year were hearing those terms: social equity, equity, equality, DEI. So anyone interested really should spend some time online and learn these definitions. But social equity is really a concept that applies to justice and fairness as it relates to social policy. Meaning community members have access to the resources they need to thrive. And a lot of time that means removing barriers, historic and present, and making sure individuals are included, can participate, and prosper. And when we talk about equity, it is important to note that it isn't just in reference to race. Equity encompasses age, gender, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, disability status, and a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah, and so one of the big things is as this became very important over the summer with the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter protests, Breckenridge really felt called to do something, but to do something more long-term. And so we created the Breckenridge Social Equity Advisory Commission. So I'd love to hear more from you about kind of the genesis of this commission and what its goals are.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to be part of this process. The process started before I was on council, and the impetus really was this racial reckoning movement after the killing of George Floyd, as you mentioned. And I think town looked internally and realized we can do better. So the commission was created because the town is committed to investing resources to create meaningful, intentional, and lasting improvements as it relates to social equity in town. I'm very glad that town decided to take a step back and hire a consultant to guide us in this process. I joined these efforts fairly early on when we were forming the commission. And right from the beginning, we wanted to be intentional and inclusive, even with how we put out the call for applicants. And we were so lucky to have over 40 community members applied. We interviewed 20 individuals, and it's great that so many community members are invested in this issue. We're looking for commissioners with varied experiences and connections to the community, from previous commission experience to advocating know-how, professional backgrounds, local networks, and lived experience. Our commissioners absolutely have those backgrounds. They are thoughtful. They do not shy away from those tough conversations that we're going to have as we dig into the issues. And I think they're all very dedicated to this community and advancing equity within it. Shortly, we'll speak with Alexandria Carnes, who's the freshly elected commission chair.
Yes. Yeah, and so it is so exciting, and I've been in all of these meetings listening, and it is so refreshing to have these conversations, and they're so open, and people really care and want to make a difference. And so, what are some of the goals of the commissions? So if people tune in, they can know what's going on.
Yeah, so the ultimate goal is advancing social equity in the community, which is a fairly large goal.
Right.
The commission's role is advising council and having those conversations that can impact change as it relates to diversity, inclusion, equity. While there is some low-hanging fruit, some changes we can make, systemic change takes time, and there is no checklist for this type of work. The immediate goal right now is to create a strong foundation. The commission's getting its feet under it, and we're having robust training with our consultant, the Equity Project. So ultimately, these efforts that we're currently doing right now will live way past the term of any commissioner currently serving.
Right. Yeah, I think it's so important that was really one of the main focuses, is that we all kind of understood that this was a marathon effort. It wasn't, something we were going to fix tomorrow, and making that decision to really make sure that this commission stays around for a while. Coming up next, you guys will get to hear from Alexandria Carnes, who is the newly elected chairperson of this commission. And she is just a wonderful person, and you guys are really going to enjoy this conversation, so stay tuned.